diagramming all the frequencies of the elements and what their vibrational frequencies are and the numbers that measure those frequencies. And they're all the numbers we get from looking at these ancient traditions that recur over and over and over again, that I've been talking about in my sacred geometry classes for decades without knowing what the final result was going to be. So this inventor who's working with this small group contacted me, and this is what he told me. He said, you built the foundation. He said, you laid the foundation with your work on ancient geometry, and I built a house on top of it. That's what he said. Nice. So for 7 years, he's been supplying me with all the information. I have copies of all the patents. I have videos of the testing of the prototypes. And Mazda, the car manufacturer in Japan, is getting ready to do a $25 million testing of some of these prototypes that they believe they can retrofit internal combustion engines with. And there's over 100, they've developed over 100 patents on some of this stuff. And it's amazing.
And what would be the fuel?
Well, plasmoids. Plasmoids, as it says here, are donut or toroidal-shaped clusters of net protons or net electrons that once captured and placed into a toroidal orbit are capable of absorbing, storing, and releasing enormous amounts of energy within their self-generated and structured electromagnetic containment field. Plasmoids, in effect, function as an atomic battery that can be self-charging due to its ability to convert matter to available clean energy. So it's a lot to get into, and I think it would take us kind of off what we're here to talk about.
But
today,
at least what's promising is that there is some, at least, research or understanding.
And it's actually quite mature at this point. And in order to avoid the kinds of fate that befell Tesla and Reich, Robert Oppenheimer, Victor Schauberger, and so many others that were working in these fields, all kind of converging on this same insight. It's been conducted in secret. The laboratory has been, that they've been developing this is in the Maldives, so that it's been immune from government interference. And now I think it's about ready to go the next.
And what is the motivation of the suppressing of this information?
I think in case of Tesla, wasn't it military, the fear of military applications?
I also think that, you know, there are huge corporations that have very large investments in a particular path of technology, which is ours.
Right.
And for somebody to come up with a whole new path of technology, it's very threatening to them. And much better from their point of view to suppress it, or if they can't suppress it, to kind of buy it and hide it, and keep things on the track that they're on now. I would say that's the motive.
And maybe for people that are curious about this and maybe even skeptical, consider the massive change that nuclear power provided us. Whereas before the 1940s, this was unheard of.
Yeah.
This even the concept of it. And all of a sudden now we have nuclear power, nuclear weapons, the most profound power known to man currently.
God help us, it's a power for use by adults, but unfortunately it's delinquent children who are leading our world right now. The leaders of our planet, the politicians out there, they're just complete assholes. I can't think of any of them who I feel any respect for whatsoever. And it's they who are in charge of this frightening, terrifying technology. We just aren't mature enough as a civilization to manage technology like that. You have to get that level of maturity.
Well, yeah. Hey, welcome, Bernie. Our first guest tonight.
The Theories of Energy by Nikola.
This is that was a fascinating thing, and you know, right where he kind of like cut himself off there.
It was just getting good, right? Like that was some crucial info Randall's bringing up.
Yeah, and he realizes that it's just going over Joe's head a little bit, and also it just gets so deep that it's hard to get into also. He said the word plasmoid, right? Is that
Yes, you did a couple times, and like I was so like stoked when he did, because that's actually the most keyest part of this technology and like free energy and whatnot, especially the HHO gas made from electrolysis or Brown's gas, is that it's actually water mist in this plasmoid structure composite that is supposedly this breakthrough energy. And Moray B. King goes very, very deep over on the Tesla Tech channel. He's got several presentations about exactly this, of these plasmoid clusters and how they relate into this free energy, or essentially over unity or 0 point energy aspect of it.
Okay. It says the definition is a plasmoid is a coherent structure of plasma and magnetic fields. Plasmoids have been proposed to explain natural phenomena such as ball lightning, magnetic bubbles in the magnetosphere, and objects in cometary tails in the solar wind, in the solar atmosphere, and in the helicopter current sheet. Plasmoids produced in the laboratory include field reverse configurations, which are FRCs, right? And those are a type of plasma device studied as a means of producing nuclear fusion. It confines a plasma on close magnetic field lines without a central penetration. In an FRC, the plasma has the form of a self-stable torus similar to a smoke ring. Yeah, I like it.
Right, it's the vortex shape again too, right? Like the toroid is a key part of these plasmoids, so it's a geometric aspect of both plasma and matter.
And this DPF's dense plasma focuses, and these spheromocs, which are, it's a spherical tokamak, it's as opposed to the toroidal shaped tokamak reactor. So these have different topologies and different setups, but it's interesting because you might be able to create some topology similar to that hop vibration, which Eric Weinstein claims is this 4 or 5 dimensional backbone of the entire universe, and that we're just a projection of this hop vibration in 5D space. This is getting closer to the heart of the core of our geometry of our universe, man. This is mind opening, but it just a shame that he couldn't go deeper. He didn't even want to go that deep. He was like, "Oh, I can't go too deep," and then for our channel, we're like, that's not even nearly deep enough. We could have you on for 7 more hours.
Right? Like just barely scraping the surface there, Randall. Just teasing us.
Come on,
you definitely need to get Randall Carlson on in the new year, because he would be perfect for so much of the work that we're all doing in this community, really.
So this is interesting, this dense plasma focuses, and I wonder how many of these topologically you could create, like whether you could produce like chains of these in figure 8s as well, because it just seems like, they can create one of these. It's like a self-sustaining ball loop, but it's you see how it's feeding off of a larger electromagnetic field somewhere else, which is fascinating.
Right. So a key part of like my understanding or thesis into these plasmoids and just plasma energy in general / over unity is that it's not a closed loop system or closed energy system. It's connected into a multi-dimensional system where there's more energies coming in to the system, that the physical system that we have in this 3rd dimension, but the energies are being brought in from something that we're currently not fully understanding or recognizing in our current physics.
Yeah, well, our current physics model says all the energy was created in the beginning of the universe at the Big Bang, and sort of energy can't be created nor destroyed. It's all because everything obeys these conservation laws, which are foundational to general relativity. even the word relativity is all relative. It's nothing happens without something else happening opposite to it. It's like for a reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I mean, that the sum of all actions is nothing, in the large scope of things. So it relies this whole loop kind of thing like that. Hey, maybe we are just all nothing, and it's all just very complex and altered form of nothing existing at different parts in time. But back to hardcore physics and less like deep, physics philosophy stuff. This plasmons are a little bit different than plasmoids. Plasmons can be, our localized surfaces plasmons. So it's basically a wave that, due to this, it's like a surface that, just like the surface of a pond is able to transmit, waves of ripples across the surface of water. There's certain types of materials which will do this for incoming electromagnetic radiation. So here you see H nu. We have a photon of this energy coming in and striking this material, and the photon energy going into a solid state wave on the surface of that material. And that surface is actually two materials. So it's air or vacuum of space, and then this material, which have two different refractive indices. And so things tend to travel along the surfaces of where two different materials of different refractive index meet. A lot of times in physics. So plasmons are another interesting thing that we can talk about. And if you get the plasmons, if you can pump energy into these fields on the surface of materials, right, in the form of these surface plasmons, what happens when you pump enough, too much energy, like a ton of energy? Well, you can actually polarize the vacuum along the surface of these materials if you pump it too hard. And what that creates is what are called a surface plasmon polariton in solid state physics. And I've been talking about this, trying to introduce these terms to people. I've just learned about them recently myself. But this is super important for understanding the quantum physics and the material science, solid state physics and crystal science required to really get a grasp on this future of what he's describing here to Joe Rogan, this next wave of technology. This is where humanity is going, and this is like, it's going to be, we're 20 years ahead of the curve on this channel sometimes, and things that we predicted 20 years ago are now coming about. And
right, like some of your very first videos on cold fusion on this channel, it's like it just got verified like last week or a week and a half ago that they got the fusion. I think, I guess it's essentially cold fusion, but like medium fusion with the laser and whatnot, getting more energy out and fusing two hydrogen atoms together into helium with extra energy coming out of the reaction, I believe is what was acknowledged.
Let me see. This was. Do you have the link to that article? Cold fusion news. This was a new thing that happened.
Give me 1 sec. I'll look it up.
Yeah, go look that up. In the meantime, I want to get back on this Malcolm Bendel guy. I found this is his YouTube. His Twitter page. So he's got some interesting, visualizations and stuff. What is this pattern? Different qubit lengths when formed into rings, natural resonant frequency of blah, blah, blah. Okay. So He's also got this thing that's Marco Rodin's Rodin math thing, if anyone is familiar with that. And I don't know.
Absolutely.
Marco Rodin's another guy. I don't know how much he knows what he's talking about, man. I wish I could find Marco Rodin's presentation from Tesla Tech this year. Let me see if it's on here.
Right. And I think also like Randy Powell, was it, or something, that took Marco Rodin's work and like expand upon it a bit with the vortex math and a few more people. And it was just essentially Rodin that came up with the toroid mathematics, and then went off on like some metaphysical God language tangents in his more recent works, and others that took the geometry of the vortex-based maths and applied it into physics and electrical engineering, where Rodin doesn't actually have any idea about that, the underworkings of the original vortex-based mathematics that he came up with or is accredited for.
Yeah, I never could get into his math, and he made some serious mistakes in this lecture that I remember him giving, where he said that he described something, he called it a multiplicative series, and when it indeed was a geometric series, and I knew that because I'm familiar with the math, and I don't know, I felt like I was like the only person in the room who kind of knew enough math to know that. But he just gets some basic things wrong that kind of just, it turns off a lot of the mainstream mathematicians, and it definitely turns me off as well, I'm not gonna lie. But he also did some weird things at this demonstration. He lit like something on fire, and like, you know, they were like, it scared everyone as they weren't sure what he was doing for his demonstration. He like, and it's edited out of this video, so I don't have it, but I think I recorded it on my phone. Man, I should go find the video and just show it tonight. That would be a blast. Let me see if I have that. But anyways, yeah, I could go maybe find that video, because that would be, no, it would take too long to go and search for it and find it right now. I'd have to have it ready. But yeah, I don't know. He's kind of like far out there and wild, but this is his magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, and that came from Nikola Tesla, and that was the basis for that whole graphic that's shown there.
It looks a lot like the chaos butterfly as well.
What's the chaos butterfly? Like the butterfly effect?
That's the one. So I believe it's the 3-body problem.
Okay.
So it's just to demonstrate how a very small change in initial parameters can really change the outcome. And this is you can't really tell in 2D like this. If you rotate it, it starts making a lot more sense just visually. I think Veritasium might have done a video. I forget who. Someone made a really good video on it a while back.
Well, search on YouTube for chaos butterfly. Oh, Veritasium right here.
There you go.
Okay.
Sometimes my memory works.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out and look into it. I know we did like Mandelbrot set and a number of other things, but I don't think we ever did. I mean, I did some chaos theory stuff, but
there's another video or work that kind of came off of the 369 math, the 9 code, and it goes into how the polarization of numbers, but energy within the number structure of the universe, and essentially that W-looking thing from Rodin's mathematics. It's the breakdown of, and the importance of it of how energy transitions back and forth between two points, I guess.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting stuff. I posted the 2 new fusion links in the private chat for you, Jeremy.
All right. I'll check that out in 1 second. Back to this whole idea of these plasmoids. So it's a self-contained magnetic field, but it's also it's plasma that's contained inside the magnetic field. So a magnetic loop that you create. So there's this magnetic bubble that basically is the bubble contains or holds the plasma. And ball lightning may be this phenomena, which is interesting because ball lightning can go. People have reported that ball lightning will come like up from the ground, pick up pieces of sand. So it'll be contain like the silica, something about the silica. It happens a lot in high silicon sandy areas and around silicon for some reason. So that may have something to do with, other particles being created like muons or these other things. Because again, muon catalyzed fusion, that's how a lot of this fusion happens. So let's see, this is the zero hedge. All right, bring it over, man. All right. The U.S. scientists at the National Ignition Facility at Lawrence Livermore National Labs, they announced a major breakthrough in nuclear fusion. Laser energy used to power it. Okay. So here's our process of nuclear ignition. 192 laser beams fire into both ends of the halarium, creating a super hot plasma that heats up its golden walls. What is it? HOHIRAUM? Hohiram? The heated walls of the Hohiram produce X-rays which blast towards the capsule pellet and erode its surface. The capsule pellet implodes rapidly, kickstarting fusion. If the heat spreads fast enough, the energy coming out can outpace the input. Yes, fusion, buddy. So this is where the energy comes from. This is where all the energy comes from in our universe. Apparently, it's all this hydrogen was created from after the Big Bang, and all that hydrogen just keeps, collecting in stars and break until the gravity and heat create this fusion. So fusion. If we can create fusion, we can create free energy. I mean, that's how the universe does it. That's just, we have to copy nature. You have to look at nature and copy it. Yeah, this is a very interesting concept. Cavity. Look how they're using cavity microwaves to create this. It's cavity microwaves that they're generating with these high-powered lasers and creating a bubble that collapses in on itself. Okay.
Laser-induced supercavitation, basically.
Yeah. And the crazy part that more energy is now coming out of the reaction than taken to start it or to run it.
And like years ago, this was taboo nonsense pseudoscience. This is what's going on inside cold fusion reactions. It's similar. It's a similar process. This has just been a different way of a different idea for how to produce it. It's interesting though. Just why is it shaped like this elongated cylinder too? And how does that shape affect the reaction?
And it'll be interesting if this verification will allow for science to actually go back and legitimately investigate and try replicating or revisit the original Pons-Fleischmann cold fusion, and if they'll allow it to now be verified or at
Well,
least recreated.
I talked to a lot of the guys that are continuing that work. One of them is a friend of mine at Jet Energy. Is this it? Might not be it. Hold on. I don't know if this is it. Oh yeah, the world. This is it. So this is I'll post this in the comments so people can find this site. This is my buddy Mitchell Schwartz's website and his work. And one of the most recent things I think he published, and I'm not sure if it's on here or not, is that he's doing Pons and Fleischmann using nitinol cathodes instead of palladium now. Memory metal. So I thought that was...
Oh wow, that's actually huge. Like influence. Memory metal could make it exponentially more efficient, essentially, correct? Of like the reaction.
Well, the whole
or
with the reaction sites inside these
stable reaction, I guess.
cathodes is they blow out and erode the cathodes, and nitinol will be able to repair itself because it's got memory shape retention.
It's also largely made of tungsten, right? That's already super heat resistant.
Yeah, refractory metals, and which nickel and titanium are both. Yeah, they're both refractory metals. So Mitchell Schwartz, nitinol fusion. I'm not sure if there's a article on this out yet, but he was telling me about it in my last email to him. So cool stuff. And a lot of that's related to, more scientists taking this Roswell stuff more seriously since I've been covering it and really like showing them what's up, like there's something here. And it turns out, it's working out for people. All the predictions that I've made as far as the science, not one has been like, oh, this guy was full of shit. Not one has been like where I've been with element 115 in this predicament where we're like, all right, 30 years later, we still don't have a stable isotope. This guy said they were making this stuff, and his job at Los Alamos was to machine this element 115 while he worked there. Yet, where is it and why can't we create it 30 years later? All the stuff that I've been talking about, we're not only creating now, less than 30 years later, but we are, it's doing things beyond, what we could have imagined. So quasi-crystals, for example, right?
That's what absolutely fascinates me is these quasi-crystals. Like, what are they made out of and how do they work? Like, they're time crystals, right? Or is that different?
No, that's different.
Different? Okay. I'll explain both, please.
So we'll get back to time crystals after. Let's get into the quasi crystals and stay on this. The crystals that have long range order, but a lattice which contains with translational periodicity. So it means it doesn't have the same crystal structure throughout it. If you look up really close, it doesn't have the same rotational symmetries. It has all these regular crystals with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6-fold rotational symmetries are regular, and they have sharp peaks in the X-ray diffraction. So what does that mean? So XRD diagrams of microstructure comparison of materials. So this is what light pretty much looks like when it goes through a gas, right? So light through a gas goes straight through, no real disruption. Light in a liquid, it has this. What is this wave structure? It's a sinusoidal wave with a damping term. So it's basically like an oscillation that dies out after a couple swings. That's what that shows. The same thing with these amorphous solids, shows this kind of less linear, less exact. And then the crystal has these very sharp scattering angles, right? So that's important. You'll get a couple angles that scatter and then nothing else, right? So, but the way that works is the angles. Oh, come on, this is like the angle of refraction or reflection off it. So symmetries in crystallography. Unit cells in 2D space. This is kind of how it works. In certain things, you try to tile a plane with pentagons, and it doesn't work. And same thing with heptagons or septagons. And, it doesn't work. So you get these numbers of these shapes which you can't really do anything with as far as a single tile. But one guy figured out that you can get these spaces that are missing in the pentagon tiling, and that you can come up with a tiling that fills the plane. You just got to switch it around and have a couple of these pieces. And so that's why when you have you do the tessellations, you have these pieces with the pentagons and stuff. So that's interesting.
They're almost like a plasmoid essentially, but crystalline instead. But to metamaterial, I guess the geometries of these particles, or am I a little off?
Well, the geometry of these crystals actually have a symmetry. So the symmetry of the crystals is what gives rise to the metamaterial nature and the unique optical properties. So as symmetry, nature loves symmetry. So anytime you have a crystal or something that exhibits some type of symmetry, then electromagnetic waves are able to, go through it or interact with it much differently than they interact with things that aren't symmetric, or just
path of least resistance and most efficient, essentially, in nature.
Yeah. So, you can actually build these negative refractive index materials using these types of crystal structures. And, it's all, in November 1984, Daniel Shechtman publishes this paper at Physical Review Letters, and he claims that he has observed an icosahedral single grain with 5-fold symmetry. It shows all the, what they saw in the X-ray diffraction and other experiments, and sort of his theory for the structure of these crystals, which people thought were impossible, and many people tried to debunk at the time. So talked about this decagonal 10-fold and 5-fold symmetries that were observed in the diffraction patterns of these crystals that were just out in nature. Just no one really looked at this or looked for this before. And he was the first one to really start digging in and found it, and published the evidence of it in 51, 53, right?
Wow. So it's been hidden for 70 years, and could it be developed secretly into that for 70 years of this quasi crystal?
Interesting. Yeah, because it didn't really come out. 1984 was when he really wait. So this was 1984 that he discovered this. And what's 1951 to 1953?
Oh, it's still 40.
Okay. So yeah. So this is his source, and he's quoting a paper from 51, 53 by Kahn and Gradius and Bleck. No, metallic phase with long-range orientational order and no translational symmetry. So I'm going to look this up so we can find this and just get a confirmation on that, because it's 53. That would be in line with, this. That would be really remarkable. 51, 53, they were finding these quasi-crystals and looking at that, because that means it's definitely connected to 47. You know what I mean?
Right? Like that's
Daniel
insane.
Schechtman, the guy who discovered quasi-crystals, right? He did his postdoc. No, this can't have been him in 51, 53, because he did his postdoc in the 70s at Wright-Patterson. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. That's
he got his degree. He got his PhD in material science, and then he went and did his postdoc at Wright-Patterson in the 70s. So there's no way he could have published, things like that in 51, 53. So what are they referring to? That's 53. Okay, 1951. Is that just the volume number or something? What is that?
You got to put in confusing numbers, right? Just to
It's just there's the volume number. Okay, it's the number of their review letters issue or something. So it's not 51. Yeah, I said that's not in line with the.
But 84 though, that's still 40 years now at this point.
Yeah, 84 is still 40 years, man. Don't remind me how old I am.
Right? You and me both. Like, but
I used to think 40 was old enough, but not anymore.
Right? It's like, I still almost feel like a teenager, and it's a couple years away. Oh dear.
Oh yes. But yeah, this was that's interesting. So it didn't make sense that it was 51. So yeah, that's just the issue number or something. But let's keep going in this. So 10-fold electron diffraction pattern with this 5-fold inflational symmetry that just it's this golden ratio. And he finds square root of 5 over 2. 1 plus the square root of 5 over 2. This golden ratio. And it's cool to see the one where they relate the Fibonacci sequence to the 5-fold thing as well. That where that 5 comes from. It's that was I think there's a math video on that I watched. It's pretty
right, like the geometries, the complex geometries and mathematics of nature are a key aspect that modern science is just starting to grasp again, and it seems like the ancients like long ago had a much better understanding of it, and how important it is in both the structure of matter as well as the energy transitions and movements within solid matter in the universe.
Real quick, aren't those quasi-crystal geometries what they've been using to basically just 3D printing the model of it and using it to redirect radio waves?
Yeah, there's the Eric Quinones article. Is it the one you're talking about?
Oh, I'm terrible at remembering sources of information. So,
well, it was the Princeton quasi Chris, right?
Because if it can work with radio waves, there's no reason it couldn't work for other sorts of waves. Hypothetically,
this is the key one. There's a number of other studies that this guy did that are super important. But oh yeah, thank you, Red Panda, dude. Cheers to you, man. Thank you for the $20. It's awesome to have you here. And let me just, anyone you want a link, just hit me up on Twitter. I'd be happy to send you a link if you want to join the party, man. We'd love to have you here, man, to run some ideas off us about this stuff. But yeah, this guy, Eric Quinones, because I found a bunch of other articles and stuff by him. He talks about this. Princeton researchers found that this quasi-crystal was extraterrestrial in origin. That had been sitting in their lab archives in a meteorite for decades, and then they're now that they're using new science and looking back at old data, they're rediscovering things and a lot of the old stuff that they had. They've been sitting on it all these years. They never knew. They could have discovered quasi crystals if they had just looked a little harder at these samples that they've had sitting in their archives for years, decades. Steinhardt, yeah, this guy, Paul Joseph Steinhardt. He's someone I'd love to interview, man. Super smart guy. Heck yeah. Yeah, but this ability for them to trap light and redirect it using quasi crystals, they proved that. They built a scale model of a quasi crystal using 4,000 1 centimeter long rods, and they glued them all together in this I don't know who the student was responsible for that, man. It's just an exacting, crazy task.
That's one hell of a 3D puzzle.
Yeah, I'll say. But they did it, and they built this thing, and then they tested it out in the lab using centimeter long microwaves, and found that, holy crap, this thing can our signals without losing any signal quality and reflect them at 90-degree angles. So that remember those peaks in that diffraction of a normal crystal has those peaks. Well, the same thing happens in a quasi crystal. I'm sure. I'd love to see the graph for that. If he has it on here, he should. So yeah, it's the phase between amorphous and crystal. So it's when you get this amorphous structure, but I showed it in this. I went and posted a picture of it right here. Yeah, so this advanced crystal growth front, and apparently it also helps that the subtle variations in microgravity can affect the crystal growth. So there was a lot of research that was being done by NASA. If I could find it, it's in the early IMAX film, right?
So what you're saying is that if we can make a container that has zero gravity inside of it, we can grow much better crystals.
Yes. So you make a container with zero gravity.
Yeah, like vacuum tubes and stuff, right?
They talked about this on the IMAX NASA, the space shuttle documentary. I think it was A Beautiful Planet or a Blue Planet. I don't know. Yeah, I think it might have been this one. No, it was an older one than this, because it was like it was maybe 2002. Space Station 2002, the IMAX film. Yeah, this might have been it. Space Station 2002. So let's see if I can find it on this. The part in this NASA film, because it's old enough now. I can probably share it. It doesn't have transcript. Damn it! I wanted to search. I love it when you can search for the transcript where they talk about the part. This looks it. My memory doesn't serve me wrong, but they were talking about growing crystals in space, and that they were doing these experiments, and then they said it was for new medicines.
And the history of each country in the space station.
Do a little bit of choreography in order to get the right Soyuz in the right place. All 3 crew members need to be in the...
I forget it was on one of these IMAX films. If someone wants to go through and find the part and get me the clip of it and do, but I remember watching it, and they were talking about growing the crystals on the space station, and I was commenting at the time about how that's definitely for producing these quasi crystals, or these sensitive types of crystals. that they're trying to grow for specific reasons, and then they're telling them it's for pharmaceuticals and for, you know, new medicines and stuff like that. And there might be some truth to that. There may be some application in that, but it's the same thing as we know, like with the Isaac Kemp story, where you know, his PhD thesis was in surface plasma and polaritons, and
So,
all
quick question on the quasi crystals. They're essentially like a metamaterial type of crystal.
So all a metamaterial is a material that gets its properties from its structure. Right?
Quantum dots are a great example of this, and a lot of your viewers are probably looking at them right now.
Yeah, and their LED screen and stuff like that. Yeah, so these ideas are yeah. So the whole idea is that the structure of the material gives rise to its properties, just like the structure of, you know, glass makes it transparent. It's due to the nature of how the molecules align and the way that light interacts with it. So light like symmetry, you know, electromagnetic waves. If you try to like calculate diffraction and all this stuff through a crystal, it likes symmetry. So there's definitely certain types of symmetries that do interesting things, as we talk about, like these these are like nonlinear crystals. Because one researcher, I forget who it was, pointed this out. It might have been Quantum Gravity Research Group, and like David Chester and those guys. They do a lot of research with the quasi crystals. Quasi crystal projection of higher dimensional crystal. So basically, the idea is that quasi crystals are actually a 3D projection of higher dimensional crystals. So
ooh, I like that.
It's that's interesting concept in itself. So this is condensed matter. Why quasi crystals projections from higher dimensional regular crystal lattices. So so they calculated these higher dimensional crystal lattices, and they like figured out how these higher dimensional crystal lattices would appear in the third dimension, and it turns out that they are able to build quasi crystals they're able to backwards build the quasi crystals with these models using these higher dimensional physics. Right?
Another super chat. Oh, my T-Brain $5 super chat asking for the invite link.
Yeah,
Jared
on
Y.
Twitter, message me on Twitter, and I'd be happy to hit you up. And I shouldn't have shown my inbox.
So
I'm talking to.
I think I might have actually accidentally made some quasi crystals last year, where like this monoatomic material, or what I'm suspect to be monoatomic. It was a combination of this white monatomic zinc, silver, and copper. I put it outside in -30, and the white powdered material itself turned into crystals about 1 inch to 2 inches in length, and they lasted for about 6 months in the water that I left outside, well into the summer, when it then melted. And then I scooped some of them out, and I have it on one of my videos on my channel called Moon Crystals. I ran it under hot water, like to see it didn't dissolve, so it wasn't salt either, because it didn't dissolve into the water. They stayed, and then I left them out on camera, and they actually turned back into white powder. They like oxidized out of these crystals back into dry white powder. And it was one of the strangest things I've ever seen or experienced.
What was the white powder? Did you test it afterward?
Well, I haven't tested any of the stuff, but it's like I made the original white powder in the liquid out of pure zinc, copper, and a little bit of silver that I had mixed together, that I used those 3 pure metals to make into this white stuff. And it was that turned into the crystal, and then after it dried out, turned back into the powder.
So there's I know we did this experiment one time, and because you never like the chemistry teacher was like, how do you white powder is? White powder could be anything because you can pretty much reduce any chemical down to a white powder, almost any chemical that you want, and down to like a white powder. It's called a hydrochloride, you know.
Yeah, so
But
my process and the stuff that I call this white powder is directly made off of the anode side of the electrolysis reactions that the physical metal breaks down from the solid metal into the pure white fluffy powder stuff at the bottom, and that I make sure that it's always the same two pure metals as both the anode and the cathode, and that I've been able to do this reaction with about 10 different metals: gold, silver, copper, aluminum, iron, zinc, bismuth, magnesium, and I think one or two more.
Have you done any experiments with your powdered metals attempting Tesla phoresis? If I'm remembering how that's.
Think so.
So,
if you have any sample of that metal or anything, I'd like to, at least analyze it or look at it. I mean, the sample of that white powder that was left over after this crystal thing dissolved. It sounds to me like sodium polyacrylate.
Actually, I'll just enlarge it for a second. This is actually what they dried out into, the leftover remnants of these crystals. So these were pure see-through crystals, hard as a crystalline structure, just like a quartz.
And do they rehydrate?
When they rehydrate, or when you add water again after it, it literally just turns back into this fluffy white stuff. This is in water. So here, let me show you how this stuff, when you shake it up, it will slowly go down. Here we'll go back to normal, but you'll see here over a few minutes how it'll slowly go down and condense back into a base amount of probably about a centimeter at the bottom, but that it stays fluffed up. It's very strange in how it acts, but 100% this new year, I will send you a few different samples of specific ones that I make out of specific metals to experiment with whatever ways you can and possibly get it tested with anything you or Mark can do.
Try the experiment in the video that I just posted in the chat here. I think that might be really interesting to try with the monatomic metals.
What we've designed, and we've done this very, very quietly.
Sorry, I have to do the audio.
Yeah, careful for the copyrights with music or whatnot, right? And some of the university channels will copyright the heck out of it. Yeah, so now you can see that the top part is going back to exclusion zone or just pure water, and that it's fluffy, slowly going back down into a solid state of powder at the bottom of the water.
Oh yeah, just keep it on the background. Let's watch it. I'll watch it settle out.
Very, very quietly, but we're glad to now release it to the world, is this idea of Tesla phoresis, which is a discovery we made several years ago. We've been developing it. And Tesla phoresis is, the simplest way to understand it, is self-assembly at a distance, just long-distance assembly of materials. And what we did was, because we're at Rice, we had plenty of nanotubes around, so we decided to use nanotubes. And what we discovered was that these nanotubes can actually string together and form wires by themselves under this electric field.
This fundamental idea of force acting at a distance, that you can have instead of, you know, when you normally build circuits and things like that, you have to have physical contact. Now we're talking about building circuits without actually touching them.
All right, so this is dispersing this. Power on. And then up. I realized that a Tesla coil could actually do this if you designed it in a way to create a very strong force field in front of it. And so that was the engineering aspect of it. And then once I designed the machine, then all sorts of discoveries started falling out of it. Oh, that was a good one!
Tesla is one of those things, it's a project that there are just so many avenues, so many things that I think you could do with it. Not just making conductive wires, but taking it in so many different places, not only just biomedical and engineering, but taking it into different industries like silicone chips or exploring different conductive materials.
This also ties in just generally in nanotechnology that self-assembly is very big. That is, if you can get things to build themselves, just as in biology, we build ourselves.
When my son saw it, he called them webs. You know, he thought it was like Spider-Man shooting webs at him. And it really is. It's very much like a web sort of stringing out together. And that was a surprising finding. And the physics of that is actually a lot richer than what we had originally thought. So there is new science coming out of this as we go.
You know, I don't think there's any evidence of that, you know, but again, there was lots of rumors that there were microbots and all kinds of other things in the test kits and in the shots. But again, I haven't seen any solid evidence of that anywhere.
Yeah, I was bringing it up specifically for just use with the
No, I'm open
atomic
to it,
metals.
man. If there's
Yeah.
someone out there, but I mean, that sort of thing would be like easy to find and publish. So it's hard to say. Man, all these other channels are really opening up to the whole JFK, Bush, and CIA connections to Lee Harvey Oswald and all that stuff, man. It's glad I was talking about this stuff years ago. I had it on my website, and it's just good to see that, you know, Elon Musk bought Twitter, exposed the whole FBI, you know, connection
Right, like
there, and it's just, this has been a great year overall and in general for all of us.
opening back up, like the level of totalitarianism and authoritarianism has like scaled back about like a decade's worth of scariness and freedom coming back. And yeah, especially with what Elon did there for Twitter and whatnot, and now publishing the Twitter files and exposing like the FBI collusion, like what was happening was literally like the definition of fascism. And it boggles the mind, but it's just like, if you saw Elon's interview, I think it was like yesterday or something on some podcast, where he was like, literally every conspiracy theory about Twitter was reality, and most of them turned out to be a lot worse than what people even suspected.
Yeah, it's pretty scary stuff. And you know, I've said for years that the FBI, the federal, they should just change the letters around to make it the FIB, the Federal Investigations Bureau, because all they do is cover up. It's like a modern day Gestapo or SS or KGB, just covering up the crimes of the elites and exposing their political enemies. You know, it's just sad.
Exactly.
And at the top,
One-sided.
it's not that there aren't good people who work at the FBI, you know, doing good things and catching bad people out, but it's like, how do you arrest your boss? You know.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like, look what happened to Snowden. He's
Yeah, it's like, oh,
never
yeah,
come back to this side of the world.
My job, everything I own, like I could just throw it all away to bring the truth out to people. But Jesus, like I just like, you have to really be a martyr or someone who's just, you know, you have to have some real strong passion to do what, you know, these people did. And not everyone has the guts and the sense of, you know, that a lot of people have families and kids. You know, it's like They're stuck. They're stuck in it, man. It's like you're trapped and you're in it for life. And there's so many people living that right now, working for this the corrupt machine.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
and that machine, let me remind you, like what the CIA, the machine that is this intelligence network, that calls itself intelligence or intelligent. It's really it's trapped into the financial evilness, and you find corruption anytime there's finance involved. I mean, just Jeffrey Epstein was just one small example of that. The DEA, the CIA working with drug dealers to smuggle drugs because the money provided great illicit funds that were untraceable for all kinds of black ops. Yeah, so there's all that stuff that the CIA's done and these people have done. They don't really talk about in the mainstream. They don't tell you in history books or in school. It's coming out. It's slowly coming out. I think it really is start of the floodgate. I think that we're seeing it now, and what we're going to see in 2023, if we all work towards it, could be a great awakening on an even bigger level than has already happened in the last 2 years.
Real disclosure, unlike the fake disclosure that happened in June with the Pentagon this year.
Yeah, there's been a lot of fake disclosure, and then the FBI, of course, it excels in fake investigations. Where it's just sad what's happened, and them all saying that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinfo.
Right, like the biggest lie ever, and like that's just insane amount of election meddling by the FBI. Like it's just so criminal and ridiculous, and that they got away with it, and it literally changed the election. Like, I don't think that, with shadow of the doubt, that people would have supported Brando. Let's go, Brandon, had they known or seen. Like, I actually looked at, when it first came out, I actually looked and watched a few of the videos that were on that were posted by the Chinese media guy, mogul, I think the Epoch Times guy or whatever. And it's like, I'm scarred for life from watching that stuff. It's ridiculously horrible and bad. And that they were able to then pin it on their adversaries, aka Russia, which they're now almost at like a society-ending world war with, and steal power yet again. And like, look at now what's coming out with scam, bankrupt, fraud, and the amount of money he stole from everybody through FTX and gave it straight back to the Democrats. I think even Biden got some of the donations himself, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, when Elon Musk was talking about election interference, he wasn't talking about just the United States either. So this is an international crime.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, this is great because Musk is here. This was 6 hours ago saying the Twitter announcement that he's selling Twitter now.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe he is, or he's considering it. I don't know if he is or not. I don't think he's has a buyer yet, or is he got a price tag? I don't know.
I was going to put Mr. Beast in charge.
A lot of people were commenting on Twitter as well, saying that Elon didn't buy a business, because everyone's like, oh, if he look at he's running Twitter into the ground as a business. He's doing horrible with it, and they say like, oh no, he didn't buy a business. He bought a crime scene.
Yeah,
to expose it, and maybe he is
right. Seems exactly like what his intent behind it and what he's doing and why he did it, and good on him for it. And especially like the fact of like exposing the pedophilia aspect of it, where it's like he's now shown how they were able to censor anything and everything, like just even political, the rights conservative side of society. They censored all of it, even for posting memes, yet they at the same time simultaneously let this pedophilia BS crimes, serious crimes and abuses go on unabated, to the point that corporations were pulling out ad revenue because their ads were popping up next to kiddie porn. Like, just ridiculous.
Yeah, he's done He's done great things for Twitter, that's for sure. The only thing that there's a couple of people who still like have questions about him and stuff, and people, what's the whole deal with
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he's like some
the
savior.
Neuralink? There's all conspiracies
God,
that he's taking over people with Neuralink, and it's gonna, and the whole. I mean, why is he doing a brain computer interface company? And
I played Deus Ex Human Revolution. I know the answer to this one.
yeah, so this whole thing is another conversation and thing all in general, but it's, my only criticism is that, he's investing money in a business like this and has for 6 years, but he really should be, and I don't know why he doesn't have a warp drive division for SpaceX yet.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, why is he so heavy into only the rocketry side of space and continuing on this inefficient, old, outdated technology in a way, and zero R&D into the new, or like the next level, like warp drive, like you're saying.
Yeah, well, even I say Tesla would not be proud. He would be like,
well, I mean, he does have pretty good equipment for making coils, so there's that.
Yeah, so I mean, he's got some really good equipment for doing all kinds of stuff. He's got he's got a ton of capital and a ton of credibility. So it just sucks that he isn't doing it, man.
I always say
Twitter and starts a warp drive company. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. If Elon Musk was honest, his cars would be called a Musk, not a Tesla.
I know Musk. Imagine that's like not the name for a car, though.
Right? Oh, exactly. It makes me think of that South Park episode of the electric cars where everybody was smelling their farts or the muskiness of it or something.
It makes me think of like the first cologne I ever owned or something. It was called Musk.
Yeah.
It smelled like whiskey barrels. It's just and like a moose cat, like cat in Maine or something. That weird smell to it. But anyways, yeah.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom quick. I'll be back in 5 minutes, and then if you don't mind, we should cover artificial intelligence art or imaging, these AI generation images, and how that is now going to forever affect and most likely negatively influence the UFO disclosure community and movements. Like,
oh god, once they have AI making UFO videos, it's gonna be over, dude. Why are we doing this? Right? Where's third phase? Are they coming on? I sent them an invite. So
yeah, I'm gonna run to the bathroom. I'm gonna try emailing them again here and see if they hop on and send a couple other messages.
So they're traveling across America at the moment and in Florida, and they can't make it. So
okay,
they're still on about the water guzzler.
I'm gonna message David Soretta and a couple more, see if we can get them on, and maybe even Zertis, see what he's got to say of UFOs. So I'll be back in a few.
So they had this other story that third phase did with they posted the Roswell crash site. I don't remember that one.
Right? Like the new videos of Roswell, and everyone's like, are you serious? And they literally fell for these AI images.
It was from a movie set, yeah. So I don't know. I've called those guys out on a number of things, and they don't really like that or take too nicely to it. But they asked me for my commentary and my opinion on things and stuff. So I like to give it, and it's
gotta be honest.
It just shows that we're approaching a post-evidence era, and I frankly have no idea how we're going to handle any of these issues in that kind of situation. Because if every video and image or audio file that you see could potentially be faked very easily, then the barrier of entry to like figure stuff out becomes a lot more difficult.
Okay, so here's some deep fake videos. All right, let's do this. The best deep fake videos. 3 minutes. Come on, don't flag me, please. Come on, I just want to show this. This is all right. Let's see if I can. I'm gonna share this, man. This is, and then we'll run to the bathroom real quick while we.
I will show
3
you
minutes.
the best deepfake videos from early 2022, like Jim Carrey in Inglourious Bastards.
Bingo! How fun!
Or Snoop Dogg doing some ASMR. Or Mini Mike Tyson. Number 11, Jim Carrey in Inglourious Bastards.
Ooh, that's a bingo!
Is that the way you say it? That's a bingo.
You just say bingo. Bingo! How fun!
Number 10, Doctor Strange meets Tom Cruise Iron Man.
Tony Stark, I'm Dr. Stephen Strange. Need you to come with me. Oh, congratulations on the wedding, by the way. I'm sorry, you giving out tickets or something?
Number 9, Snoop Dogg doing some ASMR. Number 8, Elon Musk says we are all going to die.
Killer robot got out. Escaped the lab. It kills all. So it kills all.
Number 7, Jim Carrey as Lou Bloom in Nightcrawler.
The true price of any item is what somebody's willing to pay for it. You want something, and I want you.
Jesus Christ, friends don't pressure friends to fucking sleep with them.
A friend is a gift you give yourself.
Number 6.
Because I find the whole thing extremely interesting. We're on the cutting edge of incredibly futuristic sci-fi technology. Until it gets scary, I love looking at these fucking goofy deepfakes. So that's about it. So yeah.
Number 5, Joe Biden falling asleep and waking up in the game Skyrim.
What the fuck? Hey, you. You're finally awake. Where the hell am I?
Number 4, John Krasinski as Star-Lord.
Peter Jason Quill from Terra, raised from youth by a band of mercenaries called the Ravagers, led by Yondu Udanta.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know how this machine worked.
Number 3, Keanu Reeves about Large and Venti.
What can I get for you today? I'll take your mocha. Okay, and what size? A large.
You mean a venti?
No, I meant a large, asshole. Sir, venti is large. Okay.
So you want a large?
No, now I want a venti.
Number 2, Mini Mike Tyson has all the moves.
Drop it on my car.
Number 1, Nicole Kidman as Grumpy Lucille Ball in I Love Lucy.
Lucy, are you gonna fix my breakfast or not? What do you want me to do? Starve to death? Would you please?
I will show you.
That's pretty funny. Thank you to Digital Magic for that video. Show us some of those deep fakes from 2022 and just what to do with the deep fake software. Let's see what else. What are the best UFO videos of 2022? Nine days ago on the History Channel. Oh. Well, we don't have time to get into that, or the nor do we want to deal with the copyright strikes we get from showing that. You guys have any more questions, or anyone want to bring up anything? Yeah.
I think that was for the dancing little Mike.
Yeah, the 5-year-old. Yeah. Sorry about that, man. We'll try to keep it down on the swears and stuff. So. I think in January, in the new year, we're gonna have one again. So. Yeah, some of it they have, that's for sure. You know, it's just.
Well, the
I
people
heard.
with. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and go ahead.
I was just going to say that people with Havana syndrome might have some words for all the people who are calling them crazy.
All right. No cold fusion. Just why? Let me see if there's any videos of plasmoids. Dude, understanding plasmoids in 90 seconds, 3 years ago. Okay.
Isn't that what the Marauder creates, basically?
Let's watch this. 90 seconds.
Plasmoids is a term first coined by Winston Bostick in 1956 to describe a self-contained plasma entity. These entities can take on a variety of shapes, including cylinders and most commonly toroid-shaped. Their defining features are that the magnetic field they produce is trapped inside of the structure, wrapping around the outer circumference of the shape, and this causes the current to flow inside and enables it to maintain its shape for a prolonged period of time. Large plasma clouds may therefore actually be large plasmoids. If these plasmoids collapse due to Bennett pinching or gravitational collapse, they can store a vast amount of energy and release this in the most spectacular way. In the lab, it has been demonstrated that these plasmoid structures can store a vast amount of magnetic energy in a very small space. And through its release, this energy very rapidly creates oppositely charged jets of electrons and ions. They are used to describe a large variety of phenomena, including ball lightning, coronal discharge from the sun, quasars, and black holes in an electric and plasma universe. They are also considered a key line of research in the quest for sustaining nuclear fusion.
Nuclear fusion.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's exactly what the Marauder creates. It's just that it's launching it at, relativistic speeds.
Oh, look at this, dude. Look what came up, dude. Plasmoid unification model, the Bendel turbine. This is that guy. Let's check this out. Nick Klink. Anyone heard of this guy before?
By imploding a sphere and putting the North Pole, which is rotating anti-clockwise, against the South Pole, which is rotating clockwise, you create a monopolar point on the equatorial plane. Segmenting the imploded sphere into 8 planes creates 16 peripheral points, which when viewed in cross-section reveal the infinity symbol. In order to calculate the resonant frequency of any shape, you must first calculate the sum of its internal angles. To calculate the resonant frequency of an imploded sphere, we must reduce the sum of the internal angles contained within all 8 planes. The 8 planes contain 2 circles, 360 degrees plus 360 degrees. These are connected by intersecting angles of 90 degrees and 90 degrees. When multiplied by the 8 planes, we arrive at 7,200 degrees. All physical shapes vibrate at the sum of their internal angles, which are determined by the base angle of 22.5 degrees and its octaves. The angle between the 8 planes and the 0-point equatorial center also determines the location of the knot and nodes on the Fibonacci phi curve on the pi surface. This connects and defines the placement of all the elements.
Well, I'll stop him right there, man. This is his periodic table. It's a periodic table of a toroid periodic table. And wouldn't the resonant frequencies in each one of those loops be the same? I just don't get what he's calculating there and what he's doing and how he's doing it. It wasn't really well explained or written out. So, but anyways.
Each intersection of the A-planes in the Sanskrit Fibonacci curve defines the elemental points. These elemental points are knops and nodes that can be defined by a triangle formed from the point of the intersection between the 100 pi surface and the Sanskrit Fibonacci curve on one of the 8 planes. This triangle extends from the node down to the torus equatorial plane and then, at 90 degrees, to the central 0 point. The 0 center is the collision point of the north and south poles' opposite spirals. This cancels out the spin and therefore the AC frequency, replacing it with a DC singularity 0. This 3-4-5 triangle displays the ratios of 0 matter to light and light to matter. From the area of the triangle defined by this right triangle with the ratios of 3 to 4 to 5, we are able to calculate the resonant frequency of the element. This is done by dividing the ATV by time. The area time volume, or ATV, is the product of the ratios between the 3-4-5 triangle. This allows us to visualize a proportional concept and is equivalent to a parable. It is not the exact truth, but it is the story that enables us to understand the underlying principle of the familial and group relationships between zero matter, light, and matter. The model of the elements describes the parable of family relationships that exist between zero matter, light, matter, sound, crystal form, positive and negative charge, paramagnetic disposition, and form. The ATV represents the resonance of the elemental point, its charge density, and therefore its gravity. Gravity is the inverse relationship of an osmotic effect. It's created by a lower charge density element, defined by alternating current, being attracted towards the higher charge density of a singularity 0 point, representing direct current. The ATV illustrates the elemental charge density by representing the area that the fixed charge occupies. The elemental resonance is equivalent to and defined by the melting point of the element, which is defined by the ATV triangle area. When the resonance is divided by time, represented by 24 hours, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, and normalized with the speed of light using a factor of 7.5, this produces the rectified base resonant frequency. This is important because once you know the resonant frequency of an element, you have the metric with which to manipulate matter, as demonstrated by the figures of Chaldi. When all the elemental nodes are plotted according to their valences, the elements correctly align to their base frequencies. These base frequencies, which are also defined by sound and color, are indicated for each of the 8 planes of the model. The 8 planes also indicate the monad, dyad, triad, and tetrad crystal forms of the elements. The underlying ground plane on which the torus is placed accurately defines their positive and negative elemental charge. This ground plane also demonstrates the paramagnetic and diamagnetic character of the elements. The disposition of the sorted elements, once correctly placed across the torus model, according to their octave progression, take on their unique planes of reference. The noble gases, which are classified as inert, occur on the same plane. Hydrogen is also a gas and occurs at the 0 point of that plane, which is the point of greatest charge density. Hydrogen, therefore, has the greatest charge density of any element.
So,
the octave model defines the relationship between the frequency and crystal form in order to enable the reconciliation between zero matter, time, light, and matter. It is a proportional representation of the infolding and warping of time and space. As the model of the elements defines the location upon the pi surface that each element will report to, the octave model allows for the visualization of the charge density, crystal form, and resonance of each element. This model is capable of defining and quantifying the 8-shell internal structure of each atom. The octave model, which represents 1/8 of a sphere, visualizes the musical octaves, the relationship to their crystal forms, and their 22.5-degree primary, 45-degree secondary, and 90-degree tertiary spatial dimensional relationships. The octave model, when folded, demonstrates the alteration of the area-time volume as it metamorphoses from the high charge density 5th dimension to the low charge density 1st dimensional base. The new shape derived from the base 22.5 degree angle is the translate representing the relationship between direct current, which is zero matter, and alternating current, which is matter. Find the zero matter, which operates on a base of 12, and matter, which operates on a base of 16, is essential to any torus spiral collision-based fusion device capable of operating at room temperature or above. This principle is demonstrated by the operation of our plasmoid thunderstorm generator. In order to achieve this rectification, you must first divide the one-dimensional zero matter circle into 16 points, spaced 22.5.
He just said a plasma thunderstorm generator? Is it what it generates thunderstorms? It's just called.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Is that what this is?
It's just weird. I don't know. I'm just trying to get this is diagram of what his setup is. This is their facility in the Maldives.
The plasmoid homeostasis demands that the frequency remains the same for an individual as it is for the group. Therefore, the individuals must share the
electrons. We got an echo going on.
8 thermocouples were attached to the key points on the plasmoid thunderstorm generator to quantify the anomaly between the heat energy received from the exhaust and the heat generated by the thunderstorm device. The heat of the thunderstorm generator exceeds the heat of the input exhaust, proving an anomalous above unity condition.
Interesting.
The underlying principle of Malcolm Bendel's unified field theory is that all elements are plasmoids, and that all those elements are directly controlled by charge density, therefore making charge density the only relevant characteristic when considering zero matter, time, light, and matter. The implosive vortex waveguide is inspired by the molten sea Vajra based on Malcolm Bendel's scientific observations drawn from his Bendel torus. This led to his unified field theory, which is clearly illustrated by his model of the elements and his octave dimensional model. The Bendel turbine has direct applications to all current technologies, but especially to the jet turbine and space propulsion industries. The Bendel turbine manipulates the movement of air using a structured waveguide to create an implosive vortex. This vortex, once established by the waveguide, becomes self-structuring, self-organizing, and self-perpetuating around a pole emanating from the 0 point of the model. This effect induces a vacuum, which is the defining operating parameter of the turbine. The airflow, which creates a clockwise imploding spiral vortex, centralizes and compresses the oxygen and fuel, which is then combusted to create a fire tornado, producing internal heat and an external vacuum. A conventional jet turbine directs the heat generated onto the blades, which in turn creates differential expansion. In contrast, the Bendel turbine directs the heat away from the blades, whilst the incoming air...
All right, come on. I want to talk about this before I let it continue.
Fair enough.
Just like I'm just showing this video and not really giving any feedback or analysis.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to listen and let them explain themselves, you know, but...
Yeah, but I want to pause it because he's moving on. He's moving on to new stuff now, and I want to go back to his model. Right, models of the periodic table. There's a lot of different models, and this kind of like reminds me of Walter Russell's model, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, of this way to arrange the periodic table. This is more how I thought it was done, is on a cone, you know, rather than a torus. because it kind of wraps around itself, but there's more elements as you get, each one of these is the orbital, so you're adding an extra orbital ring of electrons.
We can't see what you're looking at, by the way. We just see the plasmoid unification.
Oh, I have to change that. This is Mac. Yeah, so this is kind of how I thought it would really look like. This is.
Well, it's a lot easier to show in 2D anyway than the toroid model. How do you unwrap a toroid?
Yeah, but the toroid, it would imply that as you get to the higher elements, it wraps down, it gets small again as it approaches the center again, because that would be like the wrap around, Whereas the way that the periodic table goes is you start off with this, the first.
Yeah. Jeremy, are you able to bring up Walter Russell's periodic table where it is a vortex spiral going down in the octaves? It might be there somewhere. It's really, really good. I don't understand why it's not taught in schools or brought up anywhere. It's ridiculously accurate. And he also predicts or includes another like subparticle or like element within it. Story for another day, but just the picture of the Walter Russell periodic table is really good for understanding.
Yeah, this one right here, where it shows it shows like the spiraling kind of octave effect.
You got it.
But again, this is kind of like this. What's wrong? I mean, I in my opinion, this is kind of like these types of theories, or the way of theorizing about the universe or looking at the world, is what I call a top-down model. Top-down models are what's wrong with physics, and as far as I'm concerned. So like when you're trying to,
I'm more and more convinced that bottom-up doesn't really exist, though.
He's trying to construct this new model based upon this toroidal structure and these envelopes, but he's not showing how it relates to any of the real physical theory of orbitals and valence electrons.
But but that's the other question. Can we ever really get to the bottom? Like, can we ever actually get to? I mean, maybe it's more of a middle out kind of a thing instead of a bottom up.
But I'm just looking for more of a like a bottom up.
He also has a couple more of the octave arch periodic tables as well, where there's a few. It's not an all-in-one, the spiral one. There's several of them together that he has, and I'm not saying either that he has all the answers there. It's a good addition to it of visualizing the families of them when they're going from one side to the other in the same octaves or whatnot. And also it's over 100 years old since he made them.
Who, Walter Russell?
Yeah, Walter Russell. And he also, Ross here is also saying that it even predicted the element Neptunium when he made it with that octave.
I'm just trying to get a sense.
I mean, this isn't all nonsense. Some of this makes sense, but I feel like there's parts of it that they're kind of glossing over.
Yeah, I just try to pick it all apart, man, and be skeptical of it all.
Of course.
This Bendel guy, because at first it said that he's working in the Maldives, and then this is from 3 weeks ago. No, this is 3 weeks ago, so this is different. So like the more recent one said that he's working in the Maldives, but that one other video we just watched was like 3 years ago, and that showed him working at a facility in Bangkok. That guy, so the Bendel turbine, and it's interesting.
Andreas is saying in the private chat that is that tonight right now that
If you guys want, so I just earlier on Based AF with Adam Krigler, this guy Rife Technologies was hitting up the chat, and I'm like, is that like Royal Rife? And turns out he is, not just like Royal Rife. Rife Technologies is like the nephew of Roy, and he is making stuff, and he's going to be on the show, and he might be coming on tonight to say hello if you guys want.
Oh yeah. I think I met him at Tesla Tech.
Oh really?
I asked him. I'd like to see if it's the same guy because there was a lot of those guys have been at Tesla Tech, and I've met a couple of those guys. So
now, speak of the Rife, welcome.
Is he here? Guys. Welcome. What's your name, Matthew? Matthew Rife.
Yes,
Matthew the Royal Rife. What's up, man? Your family's up enormous. We've heard about you, and we've been trying to save lives based on the work of your uncle. That's crazy. How you doing?
Doing well. Trying to figure out StreamYards at the moment. I thought that earbuds might help, but no volume's coming through them.
You're doing pretty good though. Can hear you loud and clear, no echo.
Nice. Well, I'm on an iPad, so hopefully that helps. I've tried a computer, but man, I'm so granulated, everything. It's horrible. But yeah, I'm basically just taking on right where Royal left off. And I've improved a lot of his stuff, and I'm improving even more. I'm giving technology away. Are they reconstructing Rife microscope? I can. I have all the blueprints.
So some people here more than other places are going to know about what you're talking about, but just anyway, pretend like, it's the regular people. Explain what Royal Rife did and what Rife healing and what Sonic, what is all this sound stuff you're talking about?
Okay. So Uncle Roy, it's the only thing I knew him by.
Uncle Roy is such a good way to start this story.
I didn't really know who or what everything, like how big he was, until I was like 19 or 20. But I've studied all of his personal notes and everything since I was like 5 years old. And then, I just always did this on the side, tinkering with it, building stuff, because I've always been interested in it. And what it breaks down to be is that everything has its own resonant frequency. Now, if you can match that frequency, then you can make and kind of control it. You can make it oscillate. Let's take, and let me give a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. It's not medical advice. I'm talking in theory. FDA doesn't like me. So all of that, do not take it for any kind of medical advice. Go seek advice of a doctor. But take cancer for example. If you can match a resonant frequency of a cancer cell and you can make it oscillate and you can sit there and you can make it shake, then the proteins cannot align. If those proteins cannot align, then they can't split off. And if it does split off, it becomes a daughter cell. And a daughter cell's dead anyway. So then your lymphatic system processes it all out as waste. I mean, there's been 17 cases this year of people who've bought my machine. And I don't know what happened. I can't claim it's my machine, but all of their cancer just got up and walked away.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful thing, looking at the history of it, Uncle Roy built a machine that is built on real history. There's a lot to be said about, we were talking earlier about Tartaria and the sound healing climatic patterns of the windows. So it's founded on good science. It's founded on historically trusted science. And I think that's an interesting thing. It's also all across science today. Sonication is being used to remove gallstones and to fight cancer. There's radioimmunotherapies that rely on sonication. So I think it's interesting because this is the kind of thing where it's the most obvious that it's not just some hokey pseudoscience. I mean, sonication is actually being used right now by mainstream medicine. It's just the kind of thing where it has a lot of implications, because it could easily mean that other forms of sonication are bad for you. Other forms of radiation might not be healthy, and that's 100%. Where corporations get upset.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of that. As soon as they started doing 900 megahertz, which is cell phone technology,
yeah, Motorola got in trouble.
Started becoming stressed out. They started growing less. It started hurting them to where they were not as plentiful. And now look, like in 1940, peach had 5 times as much nutrient as what they do now.
Are you using sound or radio frequency or both?
I am using electromagnetic frequency field wave generators. So EMFs that are set to a certain frequency that cover a field, and they're set within a certain wave pattern to the golden ratio.
How are you making the field? With an antenna or like a coil?
I make my own coils. I engineer, design, and make my own coils. I have a couple if you'd like to see them.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Like to see where you share your information too.
Oh, Bernie, you tried to get me on here earlier.
I'm so excited and stoked right now.
But you know what? When he gets,
this happen.
As soon as he gets back, though, the thing I was going to tell him is like, Jeremy and all of us try to be like Jeremy here, have to be critical and have to be discerning and have to be making sure that we're asking the tough questions. And, a lot of this stuff sounds really good, but it could also be kind of woo. Let's make sure that we're actually looking at the science behind this and seeing how this works, right? Because if there's anything to EMF healing, now is the time when we're going to want to know about it the most. People talk about bacteriophages looking like robots. I mean, I'm kind of curious. Is this going to be like the Sentinels in the Matrix? What do you think is going to happen?
There's someone that did a TED Talk also saying that they've replicated Rafe.
God, Uncle Roy from now on. I'm going to take it. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. I'll see if I can find that. It's been too long.
He's like, right now, he's walking, like he had to go down the spiral staircase. He had to pull onto the electric switch. He's getting into the swan boat. He has to answer the riddle so he can get to the other side where he's going to open the bookshelf. He has to pull one brick out, and then the bookshelf's going to turn. Then he's going to pull out the Royal Rife machine. And then he has to come all the way back, which is why it takes so long. Here he is.
Or I could just possibly be in a camper for security and move around.
I like my story.
I do too. But then whenever I live stream and they're like, I don't see a spiral staircase.
It's under the trailer.
So here's one of the coils.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Can we get a solo on that? Awesome. We do a thing called Real Science, which you're going to have to come to. This is basically it. But
one of the stars.
Now,
yes.
Here's the other that goes with it.
Hold on, a little slower, please, so we can see the detail.
Dude, Jack Parsons is frothing his mouth right now.
Amazing.
16 points.
Have you put a sheet of the magnetic viewing material over that?
Jeremy was the quietest just now. Jeremy just Jeremy was like Patrick Bateman looking at the card. He's like, bone.
So in the magnetosphere, I've gotten it around 92 Gauss rating. I've done all the magnetic testing. I can just explode neodymium magnets. Like if I take it from, I have to take it from a really, really high hertz rating, and then I break it down even more to where it kind of creates micro fractures in it. And then at the ending, I'll just pump it at 32.3 hertz, and boom. And I quit doing it because I just about got some in my eye.
I just stopped doing it.
Yeah,
it's power levels.
Damn it. That's John Hutchinson's and you. We got to get them together. Oh my God, Bernie. This is crazy.
And same with David Soretta, works and experiments with these things as well.
Gerald's got to see your coil.
And Gerald, exactly. Gerald, I also do a series called
You just
Year
found
of
the 12-step program for coilers. That basically.
Well,
is
I know David Soretta, and him and I have talked. He said we theorized on different types of anti-gravity. We theorized on a lot. I really like the guy. He's a really good guy.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, so one of the series I do on my channel is called Year of the Coil, where we bring together a whole bunch of people making different coils and the experiments and tests that they do. So definitely going to have you on for a feature episode of that. It's coming up, Matthew. Greatly appreciate it. I'm going to shut up and let you talk some more describing what you're doing with remaking your uncle's amazing devices.
Can you give us the link of where you share everything?
Right now,
you got a new YouTube channel.
Well, I'm only on TikTok, and then I opened up an Instagram. Now I opened up a YouTube channel, which is Rife Technology, and I'm on Twitter.
You got like your YouTube channel is like 2 weeks old, but there's a lot of good stuff on there. You got some pretty decent videos. I was checking it out earlier. It's good stuff.
The other guy you'll see that's my business partner. So I'm more like mad scientist, and I just do things like I built a railgun.
Oh, cool.
And I was just trying to push it to its limit, and then I did EMF oscillation to tungsten rods for arc welding. And tungsten's not very reactive to magnetic anything, but there is a point that it is. And whenever you make it oscillate, it gives up a little bit of that refraction. And man, I shot this thing about 100 yards out my back door, and it went through the metal on my pole barn. And I was like, well, I don't think I should have it. And I took it all apart.
Hey, does this look like you with like 153 subscribers?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yep, 154 now.
Gonna make that 156.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'll put that in the chat so everybody else can use it too.
And there's a lot of technology I give away for free. Like right now, I've developed. Are you guys familiar with electroculture?
Mm-hmm. What's electroculture?
Like growing plants and things. Kind of.
I
Yes,
figured, but do you electrocute the roots or something to make them grow better? It's
Yeah,
like
copper wiring stuck in the ground that collect positive
Okay.
charge ions.
No, I've heard of people using acoustics for that, but never electric.
Well, I've
seen others using EMF fields through different coils to stimulate plants, and actually,
I've
the
seen them
Nunez's
stimulate worms. Yeah.
the Nunez's were growing crops in the dark, complete dark, just with exposing them to the EMF from these coils, and that the closer to the coil, the larger the plant, and that the plants grew like directly into the coils. It was pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah, but plants kind of grow larger in the dark, sustainably in the dark, versus the dark and light, because there's more energy that's burned up for them switching from dark to light, dark to light. Does that make sense? So if you grow something in a closet, it's just going to grow amazing. Like more so than in the light, but it's not going to have the chloroform. It's not going to have other nutrients. So right now, what I do is I have a technology to where I make fertilizer out of thin air, essentially. So I'm using EMFs, and I'm breaking apart nitrogen molecules into two. So I have two nitrogen atoms, which are essentially fertilizer. It goes and it sticks to the plant. Also within those EMFs, it positively charges the ions in the air. And I have specially made antennas that will best capture positively charged ions that go down into the root, bring in earthworms and snails and everything. And I'm trying to find a county whose main income, their GDP and everything is, agriculture. And I want to give it to them, like nothing on my behalf. I just want to give it to them. If they promise to protect it, do not let large corporation put restrictions, and do not, they can do whatever they want to with it. They can sell it, they can give it away, whatever they want. Just do not let it
knowledge before they can patent it and hide it, right?
Oh, open source.
Oh, I'll have it patented. I'll have it patented, and I will hand over every bit of the intellectual property to them.
Nice.
Well, we will have to have you on several of these episodes going forward and bring you into what we're already doing. We're doing similar tests with monoatomic waters, colloidal waters. This year, I grew a 6-foot lettuce plant in my garden from watering it with monoatomic golds, aka Ormus, it's also known as. And it's all about open source. And we're also doing a series with the Hutchinsons, developing and sharing open source their crystal batteries for renewable free energy for all. And it'd be perfect to have you in.
Now, speaking of energy, I have wireless electricity working to where you can just plug it in the ground. And so I built
the Russell Targ stuff. All right.
Yeah, and it works right now. I send electricity faster than the speed of light to any place on Earth. So this is essentially something that you can take, and you'll have to take a grounding rod, ground it around 3 to 5 feet. And then you have a stanchion to where if you send electricity from your house, it goes right to that. And then you have power right out in the middle of anywhere. Not only that, but this 5.03 megahertz band wave that the Earth works on that sinusoidal wave, I can modulate that wave and send data through the Earth. And this is something that's going to be completely open source. We're going to make a decentralized internet that works faster and anywhere in the world upon demand. And it's free.
How efficient is the power transfer? And how far have you went?
600 miles, and the efficiency is
Oh.
just dead on.
Wow. It's what?
I mean, the efficiency, I don't think I can get any more efficient than faster than the speed of light going through the earth.
Yeah, like whatever Tesla, the original Tesla did with his Tesla car.
Yeah, but see, Tesla was going more
Yes,
for
it did.
atmospheric transfer.
Right. I'm just thinking, however he powered the Tesla car, because they said he drove 2 weeks on it. No battery, just a box.
Yeah, I believe it. So my coils,
Zero, I think.
my coils are designed to where they're kind of just power generators on their own. You've heard of Marco Rodden and Rodden coils?
Mm-hmm.
See, he never could get them to work. And nobody else could get them to work. And I've been giving this to everybody. I'm like, oh, you guys know about this? You can have it. I got them to work. You bury them. Use the Earth's own magnetic field as a small, like, just keep it cycling. You bury it.
Are you using beer copper wire or enameled?
No, I'm using specialized wire that I order, but it is double enameled. And the reason I have two different wire gauges is because one will emit a EM field. Okay, so the wire gauge will dictate the size of the electromagnetic field that comes out. And so I have two different gauges to where whenever they bypass each other, it creates something that's called Faraday rotation. It creates a third EM field, third the size, third the power. Mathematically worked out within the wire gauges and how strong they are. It goes to 3, 6, and 9.
Yeah, to make some videos making these so we can all replicate them.
This part, the Rife machine, really is the funding that's going to be taking me through the next 10 years. And this is the least controversial device that I have. And if I taught people how to actually utilize every bit of this, it could be utilized in a bad way because there are frequencies that are bad for people.
I guess that's true for everything.
Yeah.
So whenever it comes to this and people having it in their home and people using it for them and their kids and dogs and cats, this is something that I would feel terrible if somebody hurt themselves with it.
Do you have any of the original microscopes? Or talk to there was another person that still has one that's working. He said he could actually see an atom in there.
I don't have any microscopes. I have all the blueprints. Let me see.
Well, it's been a long day for me, man. I'm starting to fall asleep, man.
One of the museums has one. I can't remember which one it is.
Okay, Jeremy, do you want me to just end it on your channel? I'll continue a bit on mine here for a minute.
You can continue it on your channel. I'm gonna end it here on mine, and I'm gonna dip out for now. And thank everyone for watching here live on Alien Scientists.
Jeremy, you're the best, man, and we're gonna do a show soon. And thank you so much. You're the best. Love you, bro.
Thank you, guys. You too. And have a happy new year. If I don't see you, I'm going to try and get on before then and do more stuff here. 2023 is going to be an epic year.
We'll use BurnEye as the scheduling guy, which is both ironic and amazing at the same time.
All right. Well, peace out to everyone
Much
here.
love, brother. Thank
this
you.
green cards then or transfer?
I just posted the link in the live chat for my channel that it'll still be live on.
Okay.
And
yeah, awesome. Go check it out there and jump over there, man. And we'll see you around, man. Thank you and happy New Year, everyone.
Same
all right,
to you, brother. Much love.
All right, peace out. We'll see you all over at Crypto Alchemist.
Peace.
Later, brother. Peace.
Later.
All right. So